Did you know that over 40% of dementia cases worldwide could be delayed or even prevented by just addressing a few everyday lifestyle factors? Imagine the power of changing just a few habits to protect your brain, your memory, and your independence. That's what Always Ageless is all about, bringing you the experts, the insights, and the real world tools that help you and your loved ones live fully at every age. Today, we're joined by Dr. David Ajibade, a physician educator and founder of the Brain and Body Foundation. Dr. David has dedicated his whole life to showing people how food, nutrients, and daily routines impact brain energy, which we all want more of, bone strength, and long term vitality. He's created frameworks like Dementia's Dirty Dozen, which we can't wait to hear about, and the Daily Five, and his own list of non negotiables. That will be very interesting. All designed to help you make smart choices that protect both you, your brain, and your body. So listen in because this episode is packed with valuable practical information that you can use right away to stay strong, stay sharp, and definitely stay always ageless. Welcome, Dr. David, to Always Ageless.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Looking forward to it.
We are so glad to have you. I've read about you, I've seen you in other groups, and I knew right away that I wanted to have you on our show. And many of my friends have messaged me, you need him on your show, you need him on Always Ageless. So I'm glad that you are finally here. You're popular and you're well thought of. So we're glad you're here with us today.
Thank you.
Your mission in one line. What problem are you trying to solve with the Brain and Body Foundation, and why nutrients?
One line, that'll be tough, but yeah, basically is to empower people with the knowledge and the tools they need to take care of their brain's health, and obviously because the brain and body are connected, to take care of their body's health, but primarily the brain health, and also to make a shift in how brain health conditions are being treated by healthcare professionals around the world.
And certainly you have a lot of experience of around the world. You We were talking offline a little bit. You were born and raised in Nigeria, is that correct?
Correct.
You've been in the United States just a short time, relatively short time, a few years.
Yes, about 5 years.
So we're really glad that you brought all of your knowledge and information to us to share with us, but you still also help the people in Nigeria and in your home country as well, correct?
Correct. I run the Brain and Body Foundation, like you mentioned, and we help kids, especially kids with brain disorders, but also kids with sickle cell disease and other genetic conditions around the country. And we've been doing that now for 10 years. So we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary dinner next week, and so we'll be
Wow.
getting a lot of the our beneficiaries coming in to give their testimonials about how we've helped their kids who have had, like I said, severe brain disorders and who had no help. And we found solutions basically based on nutrients and nutraceuticals and supplements that really made a huge difference in their lives. So we're very fortunate to be able to have such a group of people that we've been able to help.
And I'm sure they're very grateful as well. So you actually started this when you were in Nigeria, is that correct?
Correct. We started, like I said, 10 years ago. I decided my clinic, so we had already had a practice. And then as I looked around, so I saw that there were so many kids who were dealing with severe brain health conditions. And they were from the poor, very poor neighborhoods, and they just didn't have any help. And all they had were the physical therapy maybe once a week, which was the government sponsored and all that, but they weren't making much progress. And since I already knew a little bit about the brain and nutrients and what the brain needed, we decided we were going to step in and help these people out. So we devoted one day of the week, to just taking care free of charge. Anybody from within the city or outside the city who was destitute or poor, they could come, and then we would sit down with them, consult with them, and then give them all these free nutrients, sometimes worth $1,000 a month, monthly. And we would do that. We've been doing that, like I said, for years. And we had a lot of help from the US. We had really benevolent companies and individuals who are willing to help us out to do what we're doing, and they've continued to help us out to this day. So very fortunate.
And so when you say brain conditions for these children, what would that mean? What does that look like? What were the issues that these children dealt with?
So a lot of them had uh, birth trauma, so trauma around the time of birth, or bilirubin jaundice at birth that caused damage to their brains. So bottom line is that many of them had cerebral palsy, so severe,
Oh,
ranging from just problems with speech or problems with neck control to and almost complete paralysis. And also genetic conditions like Down syndrome. Then some had seizure disorders. Autism too was a problem we had to address, and so there was a whole gamut, and strokes, and eventually kids with sickle cell disease. And we later on found out that kids with sickle cell disease, over 25% of them will have strokes. It's not as common here.
that's a very interesting fact. I would have
Yeah,
never known that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We didn't. I mean, I certainly didn't. So I studied it in medical school, but I thought that would be the last time. I mean, it's a terrible disease. Most people in the Western world don't know much about it, about Valerie, because it's primarily a black condition, and Nigeria having the most number of blacks on the planet obviously has the most number of kids with sickle cell disease, and we were losing 50 to 75% of everyone born were losing that they were dying before their fifth birthdays because of sickle cell disease, and we're talking about over 150,000 are born every year. So of those, only about 50,000 would make it past their fifth birthday. And even those who survived lived in constant pain and suffering, and many of them would die before the age of 20. So, I mean, it was a hopeless existence. And so we stepped in when they started coming to us with strokes. I was like, what can we do that we can address upstream rather than wait until they had these complications? Could we do something to help reduce their pain and their suffering? And we found out that there were simple things we could do, and we just stepped into it and we started providing these nutrients, and voila, they they started living normal lives, almost normal lives. So we're hoping that we can get this, train other healthcare professionals to do the same thing, because these nutrients are not exclusive to one part of the world. They are available in every pharmacy, every drugstore. You can easily get them, and it's a big shame that kids continue to suffer when the solutions are right there at their doorsteps.
Right. It is very sad. And I'm sure those kids and their families are so grateful to you and all the people who haven't even met you yet that will be grateful. You talk about your work is at the intersection of science and clinics and community education, all of those things. So, what convinced you that education is as critical as treatment? Like energy explained simply. How did you come to that conclusion? And when did you start doing education as opposed to just treatment?
That's a great question. So I'm a child of educators, so I guess it's somewhere in the genes. My dad is a professor, or was a professor of geology. He's still alive, retired. My mom she has a school that she started about 40 years ago, and well, she's celebrating her 40th anniversary now. So of her school, and so I guess it's in the blood. But on a practical in the practical sense, the truth is most people aren't going to have access to standard, high quality healthcare. And even if they did, from what I've seen living in Baltimore, where we have the best of the best, Johns Hopkins, University of Baltimore, Maryland,
Right.
even if they had access to these healthcare professionals, we as doctors are simply not trained. Most people will find this hard to believe, but we're not trained to help people take care of their health. We're trained to treat disease, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mechanic. Mechanics are there to fix your car engine. They're not really all that interested in you fixing it yourself, right? Maybe that's a bad analogy, but bottom line is that
No,
we're
it's
not
not a
really.
bad analogy. No, that's a great analogy. You're exactly right. And we hear about this so much, but yet nothing seems to change.
Yeah,
Nothing seems to
yeah,
change. And I don't know why that is, because I think no matter how, and certainly this just from my simple um, viewpoint here on this side of the microphone, is that, and this side of the medical world, is that it seems that no matter how good of a job we do of taking care of ourselves, we're still a human body. And so there will always
Yeah,
be some conditions that, we're affected by the outside, germs. We're not going to ever
yeah.
be able to perfect ourselves.
True, but there's a lot we can do. I mean, there's a huge gap between not being helpless and hopeless and just leaving it to the healthcare professional, and also and being proactive and understanding how different forces affect our brains and bodies and knowing what to do. So I talk about things that you should do on a routine basis, things like sleeping well, exercising, and taking the right supplements. I believe everybody should be on supplements, by the way. I'm far right in that regard. but there's also things that people need to understand that could happen, events, for instance, that could happen in their environment that will impact their brains and bodies, and they need to know what to do proactively to address those. A perfect example would be a kid who's playing football, for instance. He gets a few concussions. He shakes it off. He's young. He's 17-year-old. He's young, so he feels he can get over it. Well, what we're beginning to find out is that those repeated concussions set up a chain reaction in the brain that can eventually lead to things like CTE, which we're now hearing about, and dementia and depression and other mental healthcare conditions if it isn't addressed immediately and continually. So things as simple as taking omega-3 fatty acids, for instance, which is a huge, very important for inflammation in the brain, which is what they have when they have concussions, or taking vitamin D, or taking this other magnesium, or some other nutrients, that while they are playing or while they're actively playing football or whatever it is that they're doing and they're having all these hits, they should be taking these things to counteract the effects or the adverse effects on the long term, both short term and long term adverse effects of these things. But I find out that no one is telling them these things.
Yep.
So, and that's just one example. Other examples could be someone's going through a divorce, someone has lost a loved one. There are significant changes that are happening in their brains that they need to be aware of, so they can address them intelligently, so that it doesn't fester and build and pile on until something bad happens 10, 15, 20, 30 years from there.
So their divorce attorney should be saying to them, I'm going to be your divorce attorney. And by the same token, knowing what you're going to go through, I recommend you go to a Dr. David, right? Because your
That would be
body
great.
needs to. I'm thinking of this like, yeah, it makes perfect sense, right? You're going to go through all this stress and you want to come out of
Yes.
it healthy. So let's talk about the rest of this issue. And that seems pretty smart.
That's what you call intelligent, being proactive, intelligent, healthy living. I mean, especially women, midlife, divorce happens, stress with kids, stress with work, and all those things. And then, of course, menopause is beginning to set in, and they're going through a lot. And the chemicals in their brains and bodies are all over the place. And something like divorce can just set things off a lot worse. So, to me, it's shocking that this isn't being this isn't mainstream. These are, I mean, this is, to me it just makes common sense, really, to address these things. He doesn't need a specialist to be aware of these things and do something about it. And yet it's the simplest thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking of all of this, and we'll go back and talk to this. Let's talk about, because there's a lot of things we need to get into. We need to get into the non-negotiables. We need to get into the brain health and the women and menopause and all of these things. So let's talk about what are the top three lifestyle levers, and you just mentioned a couple of them that or that could increase brain energy in people, let's say over 55, although we don't think over 55 is old. But what are the top three levers that increase brain energy in people who are a little bit older? And what changes first when they apply those, when those things happen? What are the things that change first?
When you say levers, are we just talking about broad strokes or specifics? What do you mean?
Sure, yeah, the top three lifestyle things that increase. brain energy in people who are a little bit older, and what changes first in those things when you have brain energy changes?
Okay, so if we're talking about it from a woman's perspective, with menopause, there's a drop in estrogen levels. In some cases, about 30% drop. That estrogen drop, estrogen has been found to be extremely important for brain energy. Uh, and so that drop is commensurate with the 30% drop in brain energy. Uh, it, and if it is not well addressed, the ramifications of that could be profound. Everything from brain fog to memory loss to osteoporosis to irritability and so on. And so I would say, if we're talking strictly about women now, I would say balancing of the hormones is of absolute importance. Now, here's the problem. Only about 1 in 5 OBGYNs are trained on how to correctly treat menopause and help do what I just said, balancing the hormones. And over 73% of women who are treated for menopausal issues do not get satisfaction from it. So that's a problem on its own. So what we had to figure out in our work was to find out how to help women make the hormones they need, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, in the right balance, because that's another problem. Imbalance of the hormones is almost as bad as just having a decline or deficiency in the hormones. So we had to find the right nutrients and supplements to address that. So I guess that's a different topic. So one is energy level. One is hormonal. So you want to address the hormonal aspects, and that would also include thyroid or things like iodine, for instance. A lot of people are deficient in iodine, which is extremely important to produce the thyroid hormones, which are extremely important for energy as well. So estrogen, and thyroid hormones. Another thing that we're beginning to find out is an amino acid or protein called creatine. So creatine, you may have been hearing about it. It's what the gym bros. It used to be exclusively what the gym bros do to build muscle. We are now finding out that it's extremely important for brain energy production and maintenance as well. And we can talk about that more as we go along. The other things, obviously, are sleep, having proper sleep, exercise as well, and having the right kind of nutrition. But again, those are all generic terms that we have to delve deep into to really get the essence of what happens or how that is related to brain energy.
So let's talk about what is brain energy. What does that really mean? Someone's driving down the street, they're listening to us right now, and they're saying, okay, but what is that brain energy? Is that how fast I think, or does that have to do with how fast my brain works? How do you define that?
Great. I mean, that's a great question. So I talk about a lot about brain energy as a decline in brain energy as what eventually leads to dementia. And basically, it's how it's brain metabolism. So the brain takes in glucose or any other fuel, and then it burns that to produce energy, ATP, energy, and that is what powers the brain. Same thing with electricity. Same thing with I'm trying to see what the fuel in the car. So you put gasoline in the car, the engine combusts it, and then it produces motion. So it helps to move the wheels so they can move forward. Well, in the case of the brain, the wheels really what most of the brain energy that is being produced from glucose is targeted towards what are known as the synapses, those connections between brain cells. It's called a synapse. So you have one brain cell, another brain cell, and they communicate with each other. There are about 100 trillion of such connections. I don't know who got the time who sat down to count them, but that's what they say. I'm not going to I'm not going to disprove that or try to
Yeah,
dispute
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So over 80, well, let's put it this way: 60 to 80% of all the energy. Think about this, Valerie. 60 to 80% of all the energy that your brain produces goes towards maintaining those synapses. And you cannot do anything. Your brain cannot do anything without those synapses forming and connecting. So everything from you listening to me speaking, to moving my limbs, to digestion, to even breathing has to is all modulated and all controlled through some brain cells communicating with each other. So when we're talking about brain energy, we're talking about that, but we're also talking about other things too, like cleanup. The brain needs to remove toxins. It needs to protect itself. It needs to remove plaques, amyloid plaques, which we've all heard about with regards to Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So if the brain is not having enough energy to perform its basic duties, like we mentioned some of them, it's going to decline and it's going to be more prone to damage and to attacks. Because part of what energy does is that it helps you defend yourself. It helps your brain defend yourself against attacks from the outside. Uh, and so I hope that kind of, I don't want to keep talking without it.
No, that's excellent. And I also heard you on a comment on another call that you use the term we should be a defensive driver. Is that what you mean?
Defensive driver.
Because
I talk
by
about I talk about keeping your marbles, which is I said there are three things. You got
right.
the three things that lead to dementia. So one is increased attacks on the brain, and I use that term generically, very loosely. Number two is reduced defenses or fewer protections, and the brain and the body have ways of protecting the brain. So we have those who eventually have dementia have fewer defenses or deficits in their defenses. And number three, those who have they don't get care, appropriate care when they need it. So three things again: greater attacks, fewer defenses, and lack of prompt treatment when things begin to go wrong. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
It could be. So how do we cure all these things? How do we keep our brain? So what we want to say is that brain energy everybody needs as much as they can get. Is that true? Is there ever when you have too much brain energy?
I don't think you can have too much brain energy.
Okay,
I
that's
think
good.
you're getting
Good.
100. Yeah, I think it's 100% in your 20s, and then it kind of declines from there.
Is that it? Is that true? In your 20s, you start to go down right away. Okay. And then, so is the idea of things like Alzheimer's, is that a problem with a lack of brain energy?
Yes, and it's unfortunate this is not emphasized. It is a lack of brain energy as a result of several factors, which is kind of like where I guess dementia's dirty dozen comes in, because we now look at the 12. They all start with the letter I, by the way. Excuse me. I say downtown, so I get traffic from time to time. But so there are about 12 factors or pathways to dementia, and all of these they sap your brain of energy. So I guess when we get to that, we'll get to it then. But I hope I can remember all 12 of them.
Let's talk about supplements because it's something I'm fascinated by the amount of um, of your belief, your amount of your practice, let's call it, is concentrated on teaching people about supplements. So, what should people be doing? Why do they need it? What kinds are they? How do they know what they should do? You know, we feel healthy. I don't feel like I need anything, but you're saying that I do. So let's talk about it.
I gotta say, you must have great genes. I know you from our little discussion. I know your mom is still alive and she's 100, right? So
She'll be 106 in October.
oh, that's amazing. God bless her.
She's amazing.
Yeah,
Still lives by herself, takes care of herself. She's a pretty amazing woman.
that's amazing.
So
That's
yes,
amazing.
I hope I have her genes.
So clearly, you've got something going on the inside. Most people are unfortunately not that fortunate, and you probably got a lot of other things that are going for you. You don't have to worry about finances as much as most people probably. You got a great you've got a great relationship clearly with your husband. All those are major factors that can take away from or add to a healthy lifestyle, brain and body. So most people, like I said, just don't are not that fortunate, and most people are exposed to an environment in which it's quite toxic, and they tend to eat foods that probably don't serve us as much. As a matter of fact, there are many foods that leach or drain, take out the nutrients that our bodies and brains desperately need to function well. And so there is a lot mitigating against our having a really healthy brain and body, healthy life. And so I just don't like taking chances, especially when you really look at the data and you now find out how much of certain nutrients the brain and body specifically need. And then you now look at your lifestyle or your dietary habits, and then you now ask yourself, seriously, am I really eating enough of a balanced diet to meet these needs? Now, let me give you an example. An example is, this is one of the ones that shocked me the most, Valerie. Potassium. Everybody knows what potassium is, right? As you go older, you're lacking it. The I think the Cardiology Society of America, their recommendation for your potassium intake, wait for it, is about 4,000 milligrams a day. So I guess women will be a little less, maybe 3,500. So it's a range from 3,500 to 4,500 milligrams a day of potassium you need to eat. Do you know how much? Let me give you an example. A banana is about 450 milligrams. So you would need to eat 10 bananas every single day for the rest of your life to maintain the basic amounts that they say that your brain needs. Now I take potassium every single day. I probably take about 1,000 to 1,500, and I'm still not making it. But there are many. I mean, most people simply cannot. They would have to eat like 5 or 6 servings of salads every single day, so some other combination. And so it's not going to work. And I can give you example after example after example of other things that people need. The multivitamins is a good start, but quite frankly, it's not gonna. I I, I'd like to call it multivitamins are like Hollywood. You got to have all the token. You got to have the token black person, the token trans, token gay, token. Everybody has to be represented, right? You are not going to get everything you need to meet the demands of your brain and body and the demands of this environment. And quite frankly, our environments are so much more toxic than they were 50 years ago. So for most people, you're just not going to be able to get enough to meet the daily challenges. So you just have to supplement.
So on your website, you have your non-negotiables. Is that correct?
Yes,
And
I mentioned
non-negotiables
potassium.
are these supplements, correct? And these are what you think are non-negotiables.
So these are the absolute basic minimum. And there are about
Okay.
7 of them that I say everybody should have. So they are the potassium, so there are 3 minerals and then 4 vitamins. And these are all, I've used them extensively for kids as young as 2 years old back in Nigeria to help treat many of their conditions. So we've tested it because the brand is important too. I mean, as you know, there are a lot of charlatans out there who just throw stuff together and they claim it has what it is. So we've proven them, we've tested them. I use them personally. I have them on my desk here. Uh, all of them. I use all of them every day. So there are 3 minerals and then 4 vitamins. The vitamins are B complex, C, D3, and K2. The minerals are magnesium, potassium, and zinc. Zinc is very important for the brain too.
And does it matter, Dr. David, what age you are? If someone's 55 and someone's 85, can they be taking the same supplements?
The label amounts are safe for everyone, every adult. Now, if they were my patient and I kind of like had an idea of what they were going through, obviously we would have to customize and maybe ask them to use more of one or less of the other. But for the most part, these are general. The label amounts are work for most people.
Dr. David, I see you having lived and practiced and helped people in two extreme environments, right? In a very poor part of the world. And I wouldn't say that where we both live is near as extreme poor as where you grew up, right? So what
No.
about the factors of food? What your children in Nigeria eat, not your personal children, but your patients, your children eat, and yet they can still be healthy. And then what we eat is completely different. How do you work out that, where's the disconnect or the connect on menus and food and how people eat? Do they eat because they eat meat and vegetables? That's still okay, the same as we eat meat and vegetables?
No, no. So yeah, this is very, 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 very different. There's a lot more variety here than in Nigeria. Uh, our diet, unfortunately, is very starchy, has more carbohydrate, carbs, and everything else. I grew up in a middle class family, a middle class home, and we didn't have nearly enough proteins, even in the middle class home. Chicken was a delicacy. We had chicken once on maybe Christmas and Easter, those special occasions. Can you imagine that, Valerie? Once in a while, beef was a little cheaper, so would have meat on a regular, but it wasn't like these massive steaks that people here eat. So just tiny pieces. So that is lacking, and that again, I guess that's why I'm so hawkish on vitamins, because I know our diet is just not doing it. Now we most of our food is natural, so we don't have all these these insecticides, pesticides, and GMO foods and all that. So it's organic. So we don't have those toxins that you're like exposed to on a daily basis in your food. But it's by no means super healthy or super nutritious. It has its problems as well. So again, that's why always strongly recommend that people take nutrient supplements as well.
If let's talk about your supplements. If I go out today and I buy your supplements, and I'm sure our listeners are saying, I could never take that much. What would happen? Is there like an overdose? Does someone start small? What should they start with and add later on? Is that even anything they need to think about? Or are we so deficient that if we take it all, we're still going to be fine?
Well, everybody's different. So when you say it's my supplements, I don't sell
No, 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 and
them right
I
now.
understand. Yeah, so let me clarify that. These are not his supplements. He's not selling anything. He's not selling a brand, so be sure that we clarify here on this show. Dr. David has no personal supplements, just a recommended type, like the vitamin type and the supplements that he thinks we should be taking, but there's no brand or anything recommended on this show. So let's clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're just trying to make it easy for people so they can easily get the supplements they need, and they find a way to get the right brands. And they're all on Amazon, by the way. So I have a page where I recommend these non-negotiables, and they can get it from Amazon. But just again, to take the guesswork out.
Right, but
So
there's
yeah,
nothing that he's personally selling here, so just we're clarifying that. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, some people, everybody's different. I say if you can't do everything, start with, in my opinion, the vitamin D3 K2 combo. So Amazon does have the combination of them now in the right amounts. That would be a great place to start. Some people can take everything. I mean, so I guess you just need to experiment with your body. But if you take the label amounts of each of these, you're in good shape, I think.
So there's no chance that anybody's going to go out and take the supplements and there's going to be too much of an overdose or anything like that.
Whoa, 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 whoa! No, no chance. I
Well, no chance. Poor choice of words. Absolutely. Yeah. Poor choice. I'm getting myself in trouble here a lot. Better go back. But as a
Yeah,
general
it's okay.
rule, yeah, as a general rule, and we should, I guess, make a disclosure. Everyone should check with their own physician and their own condition and so forth. But
Right,
as a
right.
general rule, you're not going to overdose from vitamin D. Although I think I heard you on another call that somebody could, but
The only danger with vitamin D is high calcium levels, but no one has died on record. No one has died from an overdose of vitamin D. Now, you may have a little sickness here and all that, which is transient. But I can tell you there's a lot of people who have died. COVID-19 is a perfect example. The pandemic, a lot of people have died from not having enough vitamin D. So it's always, in my opinion, it's better to to have too much than too little, because too little can kill you. Um, but in general terms, these amounts have been proven by science. and you can check them. You don't take our word for it. Check with your doctor, obviously, but also you can also do a little research. ChatGPT is very helpful in that regard, and just find out what are the general ranges, and then you'll find out that it's all within range. So, I mean, if it doesn't work, if it's too much for you, you can just experiment with yourself. Listen to your
Of
body, they
course,
say. Just try try
of course.
try different doses.
Sleep deprivation is common. Many of us, including the person on this side of the microphone, does not sleep enough. What is it that you recommend other than, yes, we all should sleep more, but are any of the supplements or anything that you suggest to help people sleep better or to encourage the importance of sleeping more? What does it really do for your body?
Okay. So if you're not sleeping well, it means, and I don't want to sound insensitive, but it means that there's something that is not working as well as it should in your brain. I don't want to be as sensitive as possible. There's something going on that needs to be addressed. And I find this is a problem more in women, much more in women, which in my opinion is one of the reasons why dementia is much more common in women than in men. Sleep problems, a lot more sleep problems. So it that needs to be addressed, and I always, like I said, my default is always nutrition. What is missing, what is lacking. Believe it or not, vitamin D is extremely important for the sleep phases. There are about four sleep phases, and among those four are deep sleep and REM sleep. Those are the two most important parts because that's where memory is consolidated, and that's when healing and repair happens, and that's when you remove toxins, including the amyloid plaques. If those two are compromised, and they usually are as you grow older, then um, there could be adverse effects. So vitamin D very important. Vitamin C is very important. Magnesium is very important. But I also take melatonin, and I know there's been controversy. It's been very controversial of recent times. But I've looked into the research, and it's absolutely clear that melatonin is extremely important for not just to help you sleep, but it directly acts as a brain repair nutrient as well. As a matter of fact, I use it with my kids with autism, kids with adults with dementia, kids with ADD, ADHD, and even adults with headaches have improved on something as simple as melatonin. The bottle I have next to my desk, uh, $10. It can last me like 6 months.
Well, that's a good investment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I take about now this is for me. I take about 30 milligrams, 10 milligrams. I take about 3 pills a night, and I sleep really well. Now that does may not work for other people. Other people might just need one or even half of that. But so again, we'll listen to your body.
I'm curious about immunity. You talk about, I heard you talk about once, an immune system in your gut, in your muscle and in your bones and in your gut. What is a person's immune system and how do you how do you strengthen it so that it works better for you? And we hear people here, I've heard another doctor talks about having health, being sure that your gut is healthy. So how do you do that? Is it all related to what you eat?
What you eat, yes, but also how you think, your lifestyle, how you move your body, your sleep, all your relationships all comes together. I actually have a talk called "The Laws of Life," where it looks at all these things from your what you say, what you hear, what you read, how you sleep, how you exercise, and all those things. Called the laws of life. Um, so the immune system, I think that's a great question. It's a really complex system that is everywhere. You mentioned the gut, so about 70 to 80% of the immune system is in the gut. Believe it or not, certain the immune cells themselves are made in the bones and some other organs like the spleen, I believe, and then the if you think about the immune system like an army, which it is, the machinery, the armory, the tools, the weapons are made in the muscles, uh, because the muscles is the greatest storehouse for protein, and the tools, the chemicals that the immune system uses to fight off bacteria and other pathogens are made in the muscles. So it's interesting that all these kind of like work together. I mean, there are also other parts of the body that do different things for the immune system. But the immune system is basically your Voltron or your Transformers or your Avengers, protect the brain and body against not just bugs, but also against everything from damage to infections. I mean, the immune system is just protective of every single thing. They watch over cells, make sure the cells are healthy and strong. If there's a problem, so cancer, for instance, if there's a problem, a cell that is defective, the immune system will kill that cell, even though it's a part of the body. The immune system will kill the cell and get it out of the way. Same thing in the brain. There are parts of there are brain cells that are dying, they are malfunctioning, like cells that cause seizures in the brain, for instance, that need to be removed. And the immune system, if it's not working well, will not be able to detect those defective cells and therefore will not be able to remove them. And therefore, the problem will just continue to fester and grow and all that. So, the immune system, in a nutshell, is really, really important. Now, the guts. So, if you're going to address the immune system, yes, we have to address the other things like your thoughts, your words, your actions, and all that. But I guess the one that gives you the most leverage is taking meals or taking supplements that will help to, one, have a healthy, make your gut healthier, and two, feed the good bacteria, also called the probiotics, in the gut, so that they in turn can work with your immune cells in your gut, to help defend you. We're just beginning to find out just how important these probiotics are and how they evolve and grow and develop with your body's immune system. They act like help to train or help to teach your immune cells how to act right from childhood, right from when the mother's milk. The, there was part of the mother's milk. Valerie, part of the mother's milk is actually not for the baby. It's actually for the bacteria in the baby's guts to help feed the bacteria. It does nothing for the baby, but it does everything for the bacteria. That's why mother's milk is so important. So there's a lot to say about that. But as we grow older too, those immune cells still need their own special brand of food, which may not be of any value to you, but they have to be fed. And they're called things like fiber, psyllium husk, inulin,
Right.
and so on.
Right. So I wanted to ask you about that. With there are prebiotics and there are probiotics. Do people need both? Can you elaborate on that? Is it important? Should
So
people take
prebiotics,
probiotics?
prebiotics are what feed the good bacteria. Probiotics are the good bacteria themselves. Some may argue that, well, not everybody needs probiotics or prebiotics. I would argue otherwise. I would argue the contrary. I think, especially as you're growing older, now some are like bulletproof, like you, Valerie, don't need any of these things. But there are other people
Well,
who
yeah, but I have a few years. I'd still like to live. So,
probiotics, if you get the right kinds, absolutely they work fantastically. I mean, I use probiotics to treat kids with autism and other developmental problems because a big problem, their brain problems that are causing these issues is in the gut, and they have this imbalance in their good bacteria and their bad bacteria. Same thing with dementia. Interesting. In fact, same thing with Parkinson's disease. There's a component of Parkinson's disease that is caused by problems in the gut, caused by an imbalance of the bacteria. So, I mean, I personally I would recommend everybody take prebiotics and probiotics and enzymes, digestive enzymes, because as you know, we don't digest food as well as we grow older. So I would
yeah.
recommend that part of a healthy lifestyle would be to get a digestive formulation that contains these things.
And when you talk about this is interesting, Parkinson's and dementia, are these things that we could have that you can start taking these things once you've already got Parkinson's or once you already have Alzheimer's or dementia, or are those things that we would have had to do earlier on?
Yeah, so
Is it all
obviously,
prevention or anything you can do later on?
they are primarily for prevention reasons. You're not going to get out of dementia by taking a probiotic. I promise you, or Parkinson's disease. I promise you. But it is part of the toolkit that I, as a doctor who treats these conditions, and I've been given full rights to treat these conditions by my government because they saw the results that we presented to them. So even though we're not treating them the conventional protocol, with the way protocols are being handled by the medical establishment. But they saw, we went to them with our patients and we showed them the results we were getting. And so they gave us a stamp of approval, right hand of fellowship, so to speak, to be able to use our approach, which is exclusive. We do not use medications at all. We exclusively use nutrients and nutraceuticals, supplements, and all that. And we've shown that we can get good results that way. So when it comes to things like Alzheimer's disease and dementia, yes, we still employ all these other things that we talked about, but we also use other more powerful tools to address them. So it's a combination of different things we use.
Your daily five for brain injury, fives for brain energy, excuse me, for five small consistent habits with outsized returns. What are those daily five?
So obviously, is a good quality sleep. Two will be exercise, specifically muscle stressing the muscles, not just walking or running, but specifically got to do something stressing muscles. Number three would be supplements, specific supplements. Number four would be, yeah, still eating a good balanced diet and not eating too close to night's time. So that you can't run away from that. And number five would be good social intercourse. That's very important.
Right. Social interaction, right?
Social interaction. Yeah, I guess intercourse doesn't sound too good.
Well, that's okay. That's right. Um, so, how can older adults keep their brain energy basics on track when they've got a busy schedule? They've got travel, holidays, a break in their routine. Do you have some easy tips for them?
So I would say whatever they do, they should ensure that they have maybe they pack their supplements line for, in a nice case. Seniors should that whole interaction is so important. So getting to play games, getting to interact with our seniors, and if they can, I would strongly recommend that seniors prioritize volunteering. Volunteering, yes, volunteering gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense that they are needed and appreciated, and gives them a reason to want to stay healthy for longer, especially when they're seen.
We talk about that a lot actually in our group that as we're all living longer, most of us are living longer, we need to be productive. We should still be doing things. Maybe people don't want to formally work, but there's still opportunities for us to use our experience and things that we should be doing. So that's a great idea. If you could correct one widespread misconception in brain health media, what would it be and what would be your message?
The brain has to be, it must be seen as an organ that has to have a special attention paid to it if we're going to survive this onslaught, this tsunami, really, of brain disorders that is coming upon the world, and it's good. It's only getting worse. It's picking up steam too. So that's the number one misconception, that we don't need to take supplements for our brain. Our brains absolutely need supplements.
If we only remember one risk from your dirty dozen after this episode, which one gives us the strongest return on our investment and why?
So at the beginning of your talk, you said you can reduce your risk of dementia by 40% if you have lifestyle habits. Well, I can tell you one nutrient would reduce your risk by for women as much as 50% if you had enough of it. And can you guess what that is?
Vitamin D?
That's correct. That is correct. Just one nutrient. And think about it. We have almost 200 different kinds of nutrients. Not having enough vitamin D can seriously increase drop your energy levels, and seriously increase your risk for dementia.
So when someone comes to you, is it often because they feel they have memory issues? Do they have general health issues? Who's your ideal patient?
For now, most of the patients who come to me are people who have just like tried everything. They are so far gone, and it's like I'm the last resort.
Oh,
So,
well,
and
that's
we're
okay. That
hopeful.
doesn't make it bad. Being the last resort in this case probably is a very good thing.
I would say that for the most leverage, the people who I feel can really make a difference with are middle-aged women uh, who are concerned, who are already beginning to feel the signs, little signs of decline, or they're concerned about it, or they've lost a loved one, or they're dealing with a loved one with decline. That that to me, if I was to choose one group of people, it would be them, because that is where we can make the most. We can have the greatest impact. Once we can once we can teach and treat middle-aged women about what they need to do to take care of their brains, they in turn can take care of their families. Some of the things that they do in third world countries, they're focused on women because they say if they can educate women, you educate the family and you educate the country. So that is where the most leverage is. Remember, women are twice at risk of dementia as men. So if we can catch them at that point, then we can reduce, we can flatten the curve, so to speak. We're hearing that a lot. We heard that a lot a few years ago. Now, flatten the curve so they won't. That the number of people getting to their 70s and 80s with dementia would hopefully reduce. So that would be my point.
And I think you just answered my next question. What is your what is your dream? What else would you like to accomplish in your role in your life? If I could accomplish this, I would feel so successful, something that would make you feel that you've really made a difference in the world, which you already have done.
Oh wow. Well, if we can do something about the dementia rate for sure, we need to drop that. I'm also concerned about my community because again, black people are twice the risk of dementia as white people. So uh, I'm really concerned about that. So I want to definitely empower people. I mean, and from a general spiritual perspective, I really am. I'm really concerned about people's belief in God, and I really want to be able to help people have a stronger spiritual life. Because at the core of who we are spiritual, and if we can help address that and help empower people from the inside out, I think a lot of our problems will be solved. So if we're talking about long term thinking, that's kind of like where I stand.
Thank you very much for being with us today. We've learned today that protecting your brain and body doesn't have to be complicated. It's about focusing on the essentials. Dr. David today has reminded us of his Dementia's Dirty Dozens, which are available on his website, the hidden risks we can use to reduce the 5 habits or help the 5 habits that will improve our focus and our energy, and non-negotiables that keep us strong every day. At Always Ageless, our goal, of course, is to give you the practical, trustworthy resources to help you and your loved ones thrive. Be sure to ask us any questions if you have any guests you'd like to have on our show, or anyone like Dr. David, you have any questions for him, email us. We'll be sure that he gets those questions and he responds. Until then, take good care. Remember, age is just a number, but living well is a choice, and we would love for you to live to be always ageless. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you, Dr. David.
Thank you so much for having me, Valerie.